welcome back. You are watching The Business Day on Millenium TV, your #1 channel of business and news. Now remember, you're watching us live on Top Star channel 95, as well as Facebook Millenium TV Zambia. So right now we are still talking the budget, 2023 budget, but we are only going to shift the focus on the mining sector. And with me in the studio to help us maybe take an in-depth on this matter is Madam Esther Nchimunya Nyemba. Were those right?
Yes.
Okay, so welcome to the show.
Welcome. Good morning to the viewers.
Thank you so much for having joined us today.
Thank you very much for inviting PMRC.
We are so glad we have you today. And just maybe to take a quick look, what is your overview on the 2023 national budget?
So basically, as PMRC, if we look at the 2023 budget, we do not really look at it from a standalone point, but we are looking at it from the background, where the country is coming from and where we intend to go. If we just look at within 2022, the country was downgraded from lower middle income country to middle income country. And it is within this 2022 when we saw Zambia finally getting on the IMF package, as well as launching the 8NDP. So 2023 budget is the second budget under the 8NDP, but also it's the first budget under the IMF package, as well as it's a budget that is being implemented while the country was downgraded to lower status. So for us, it's a budget from its theme that is trying to respond to a number of issues, while it's trying to ensure that we stick to the reforms that we have pledged to do within the IMF package that we presented to them as a country using our homegrown program. But also it's a budget that is cautious to ensure that as we conduct these policy reforms, we ensure that the vulnerable are not really impacted heavily. We do not triple the vulnerability that was already caused by the COVID-19. And we also see it's also a budget that is trying to ensure that the private sector really participates in the economic development of this country. So it's really a budget that is there to ensure that we spend, but we do not spend beyond our means. So yeah, so basically that's our overview of the budget.
Okay, so there were a number of issues that were brought up in the budget, and of course I understand as PMRC, you have the key points that stood out the most for you.
So basically what stood out the most is one is really the reduction of the budget from last year's 172 to 167. That really shows how government wants to really spend within its means. It's a kind where if you look at the budget, 67% of it will be financed with domestic resources. So that's something to say that government is really trying to ensure that we do not have a fiscal deficit that has been there. Because remember, in the IMF package that we have, we've promised to ensure that we reduce our fiscal deficit. And as such, this government has responded to ensure that we do not plan for things depending to ensure that we borrow money, whether from the local market or from the international market, in order for us to fund the budget. So government is also trying to ensure that fiscal consolidation is achieved in this budget.
So you spoke about government not planning to get funds from outside. How is that really just standing out to say? Is it something that we can say to say, okay, looking at how the budget was presented, it's something that is workable?
So basically, it's something that is workable because also government has tried to ensure that they balance the scales in terms of funding. So there's an issue where they've ensured that there's more spending to social sectors, but as well as they've also put up some reforms. They've also made some changes in taxes to ensure that they promote production. And also they've also ensured that they have put some money in some key sectors. If you look at in the agriculture sector, we've been saying the lack of extension workers has really impacted on small-scale production. We've seen they've pledged to employ extension workers in 2023 budget, not only employing them, but to ensure that they also have the needed tools in order for them to work. Also, the farming blocks. This has been a story that has been going to say they want to promote farming, like agriculture transformation through farming blocks. But that now has been realized where they have now managed to get money to ensure that we have infrastructure in these farming blocks, which is a way of ensuring that they attract private sector investment in these farming blocks. And another key we've seen, while we had the minister saying the CDF uptake has been low at 10%. Yes. But because if you look at the subsequent national development plans, one that has really made it not to especially impact on poverty reduction has been lack of decentralization. So government is ensuring to see that they push that agenda of decentralization through CDF to ensure that development is taken to the people. So what the government has done, they have taken a bold step to increase the CDF, the constituents from the 25.7 to 28 million. And on top of that, they have pledged to say they have acknowledged all the teething problems that the 2022 CDF had with the 70% funds being dispersed, but 10% uptake of the funds. So they have pledged to, one, amend and review the Act, the CDF Act, to ensure that it gives room then for them to be able to simplify the guidelines, because simplifying the guidelines outside the Act wasn't possible. So now we've seen that they're trying to ensure that procurement, which was the greatest issue, which was impeding to ensure that programs and projects, people start working, was the issues of procurement. So they have pledged how then can they ensure that procurement is done at lower level. So to be part of decentralization, you decentralize the money, as well as even the procurement is decentralized. Secondly, we've also seen now what they have said, they're also trying to develop an M&E framework within this CDF. So because sections of society have been asking questions, who's monitoring the implementers of the CDF? Who are the champions of implementation to ensure that they monitor that these projects that are taking place in these communities are of high quality? At least now we've seen they are pledging to ensure that there's an M&D plan that will be able to ensure that if this funding continues through CDF, we have the maximum benefit out of it. And through CDF, the minister has also said, coming 2024, CDF will not be a one-size-fits-all. Issues of population has to come in, because we realize some constituencies are more populated than the others. Also, the levels of development also matter. So that's a good move. Anyway, as PMRC, when we did our CDF analysis, these are some of the recommendations we made to say, are we able to say, to allocate CDF according to the development status of a constituency and communities, as well as the population dynamics. Because you realize the population of Lusaka constituency is different maybe from the population of Chonge constituency. So it's also important to ensure that this CDF is allocated based on these dynamics to ensure that we bring up to speed these constituencies, the development is on the same level. We cut these development disparities between constituencies or between urban and rural.
Okay, so government also proposed a restructure to the mineral royalty regime in respect with the copper. What's your take when it comes to the mining sector?
So basically to the mining sector, there were a lot of pronouncements that were made within the sector. Key is the changes to the mineral royalty to make each stage incremental. The same as the way pay is being calculated. Because if you look at the current one, it's like taxes. Mineral royalty was taxed at that price, like the whole full price. And that was a complaint for many of these mining houses to say that was very discouraging, because as the copper prices are going high for a mining sector, it was discouraging them to produce more, because they realized the more they produce, the more taxes they need to give to government. So with this restructuring, our hope is to say the private sector, the private players who are the mining houses also respond positively. It's a good move, and also one thing that they also did was also the lowest margin, to also reduce it a bit. This is to give room for reinvestment. I think these mining houses have also been saying the tax regime in Zambia has been discouraging. We saw in the 2022 budget The mineral regime also, especially the fiscal one, was so restructured to make MRT deductible. So if you look at the restructuring of last year and the restructuring of this year, we see that government is losing around 6 million to this restructuring that it's doing. So our hope as PMRC, we've done a study around this, though not just to preempt some of the results of the study. And this was one of the things that they said we impend the 3 million metric tons. So having spoken to them, having seen that government has responded positively to their request, what we hope to see now is that the revenue that government is losing through this restructuring, and they are gaining. We hope to see that there is increased investment into new technologies which will enable them, will enable and aid their production. Secondly, we also want to see them then invest into smelting, because as we go towards the 3 million metric tons, we need enough smelting such that we discourage the export of copper concentrates. So basically, those are some of the dynamics then to the restructure of MRIT.
So also in the 2023 national budget, there was the policy change in mining taxation, that the tax will now apply on incremental value in each value when the price crosses respective price. So what's your take on that one?
Yeah, so basically they will they'll be calculating it the same as pay to say, so they are saying up to $4,000 US dollars per metric, per ton. When they are charging it at 4,000 per metric ton, there the tax will be, they have moved it from 5.5 to 4%. So that tax that will apply there is 4%. And then anything then between 4,000, so from 4,000, let's say to, is it 5,000? There, the difference is 1,000. So they'll be taxing the 1,000 as opposed to taxing the 5,000.
Do you think that move will bring sanity to the mining sector?
Our hope is that government has responded. We hope the mining houses respond because they have been crying for best practice. And this is the best practice that the government has given them. So for us, it's the positive response we want from the mining houses.
Well, other stakeholders they feel like probably maybe the government will lose maybe 2.8 billion. What do you make out of that?
Basically, they might lose the 2.8 million, which is important as the country right now is grappling with debt. It's something that is important. But if we are eyeing the 3 million metric ton, then that becomes inevitable because we need to reinvest. We need money for investment. Remember, for somebody to invest in the mining sector, there are parameters that should be set right. One of them is political instability. We need the right stable tax regime. We need a good business environment. And we also need the supportive infrastructure. Zambia, we are proud to say we have political instability. We have political stability. If we compare ourselves to Congo, where Congo from nowhere now, they've overtook us in terms of production. So then political stability should be cancelled. We should not pride on that because mining-wise, it hasn't worked for us. Coming to the tax regime, you and I know that our Zambia tax regime in the past decades changed so many times. So that really discouraged reinvestment. So now the fact that after, there was a lot of outcry from sections of society to say the reintroduction of deductibility of MRIT, government has lost 3.2. It's more like government is supporting the outside people as opposed to the Zambian people. You remember there was this outcry. So, but government understand what it means to have a stable and predictable tax regime. They stuck to that. And also to ensure that they even ensure that there's this production, because remember the 3 million metric tons, with our current mining houses, it's not something that can do. We need to open up more of them. So for us to attract these investors, then we need to ensure that it's the best practice that we need, because we are competing with a lot of mining jurisdiction. We are competing with Congo within Africa, then outside there's Chile and there's Peru. So we need to ensure that we take advantage of our political stability to ensure that even our mining tax regime is right. Our business environment, we are getting there. I think the inflation, the exchange rates, we are really trying to make them stable. So we are trying to ensure that all the parameters to ensure that we boost our mining sector are right.
Okay, so having compared the speech for 2022 and 2023, would you say the current mining sector, that was maybe talked about in the current 2023 national budget, would you say it's attainable, it's something that would definitely work out?
To the 3 million metric tons, you mean? There's still a lot to be done. Let me not preempt the report that we are doing on that. So yeah, there's still need a lot to be done. There's still other parameters that we should need to continue to ensure that we put things right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you very much.